Hey, how's it going? Mark here. Um, I am doing, I think this is the fifth market analysis that we've done. So if you're new to this, every other Thursday, 5:30 Pacific time, I do a market analysis for people interested in either vacation homes, investment properties, or even primary homes in specific markets that we've seen co-buy groups looking at, making bids on, connecting with agents. So markets of interest. Today we are doing Orlando, Florida, or I should say greater Orlando area. It's super interesting area. And as most people know, tons of theme parks, tons of resorts. So that's why I say greater Orlando area. There's kind of some interesting neighborhoods that we'll dive into in a second. I'm going to wait just one more minute, 2 more minutes until some more people log on. I know that, yeah, it's the end of the workday. People are wrapping stuff up. If you're new to one of these sessions, there should be a chat over in the right. You can chat here. I will look at that a couple times and just see if anybody has any questions as I'm going through Orlando. I'm in San Francisco at our office right now. I'm curious where everyone is joining from. If you feel like it, I'm always interested to see where people are. You can throw it in the chat, say hi. Today for Orlando, going to be looking at Orlando. It's not exactly a place. I mean, I have a feeling that a lot of the people looking at Orlando or places like Orlando, it's going to be an investment property, maybe a vacation and investment property. So that's primarily the research that we're going to do today. We finally did get long-term rental data into our platform. So we will look at some of the long-term rental options. If this is maybe like a traditional rental that you're looking to purchase. All right, without further ado, we're going to just take a wider lens look at Orlando. I'm guessing that everybody knows where it is if you're joining or interested in it. I didn't know much about Orlando until I started prepping for this market analysis. I went once as a kid, don't really remember a ton other than Epcot and Disney World. But when I started to look at it, I realized that the majority of the resorts and theme parks in the area aren't actually near Orlando proper. It's actually southwest along this I-4 Express. And you can see how far away from Orlando I'm going until you get to this section called Bay Lake. So this has Disney's Animal Kingdom, some water park, Disney Hollywood Studios, Epcot, the Disney World Resort Golf, Disney World Resort. So you can kind of see that this Bay Lake area is actually, I mean, it's just insane in terms of theme parks, resorts, etc. There are other theme parks and resorts along this I-4 Express, like Universal. Looks like their kind of like suite or their group of theme parks are up here. So when you're thinking of Orlando, and everybody thinks like, okay, as an investment property, I want to capitalize on people going to the theme parks in Orlando. You're going to want to pay close attention to proximity to this Bay Lake area. I'm going to share a different tab. So for every one of these market analysis calls or live sessions that I do, I first look at STR regulations. So an STR, short-term rental, is what you think of when you think of an Airbnb or VRBO, somebody coming for a weekend or a week. Anything that's under 30 consecutive days is considered a short-term rental in most cities, most counties in the US. So Orlando is similar. And if you rent your home for less than 30 consecutive days, they consider it a short-term rental. Um, Here's what I found for Orlando, or the greater Orlando area. And it includes that Bay Lake area that I just showed where all the theme parks are. If you want to do this, there are some pretty strict guidelines. So they still do permit for STRs. They call them home shares, but they require the owner to be, or they require your home to be owner occupied. So somebody, either the owner or tenant who lives on site, and you can only rent half the bedrooms of your home. So right there, if you had a 4-bedroom home in Orlando and are thinking, hey, I want to rent out the whole home, technically, you can only rent out 2 of those rooms. And either you or somebody renting the place, like a long-term renter, needs to live on site. So in terms of other kind of areas that I've looked at doing market analyses, these are some of the stricter short-term rental regulations that I've seen. The only place that's even stricter is Palm Springs, but it makes sense. It's a huge tourist destination. They probably got swamped in the last 10 years with short-term rentals and Airbnb kind of going out of control. With that said, you can rent it out for 30 consecutive days or more, and you don't need to get a permit. You don't need to get anything like that. So if you're thinking, hey, I want an investment property in Orlando to take advantage of the tourism, you can still do it as a long-term rental. Somebody comes in for a month at a time, books it for a month or 2 months. That's still a possibility. And that is a long-term rental. And we do have that data now, so we'll jump into that. Kissimmee, though, Kissimmee is interesting. It's not part of Orlando and has different STR regulations, and it's pretty wide open. They don't require it to be owner occupied, and there's no bedroom restrictions that I saw. They do have certain zoning in Kissimmee, though, where they allow STRs to operate. Anything in green on this map of Kissimmee is okay for STR rentals. And we'll zoom out and show you kind of where Kissimmee is in relation to Orlando, this theme park dense area. Kissimmee is down here, so it's in really close proximity to that theme park zone and destination. And it seems like it's way more STR friendly. So if you really are dead set on like an Airbnb VRBO that you want to invest in, I would highly suggest looking at Kissimmee, and we'll take a look there in a sec. This zone over here that's kind of on the boundary of the county that Orlando is part of is very close to the theme park area. And this could be an STR friendly area. There are a lot of like tract home developments though in Orlando in general, and especially this area, which means that they might have HOAs, and each HOA might have different STR regulations. Gets a little confusing and a little annoying. And then this area north of this, I think it's called Bay Lake, the theme park area, I couldn't find any info. So that makes me think that it falls into the county STR guidelines. So this area I'm not too sure of, but I did look at some properties that we'll look at as well. If you guys want links to any of Orlando's STR regulations or the Kissimmee application, the links are here, and the TLDR we'll get into later. Let me go into the Nestimates platform, and we will start looking at Orlando. Let me take a look at Demio, see if there's any questions so far. Does that make sense to everybody who's on the call? Are you guys pretty familiar with short-term rentals, long-term rentals? Also kind of curious show of hands of people that might be interested in Orlando because they want a short-term rental it. Pop that in the chat. Maybe you just want it as a vacation home and you're not planning on renting it out. You can also throw that in the chat, and that will we'll definitely look at some of those opportunities. And then real quick primer, if you haven't used Nestment platform, it's free to use, just nestment.com. And any of the things that we're looking at, you have access to. We actually pay and use quite a bit of super rich data sources we update on a regular basis. We provide that for free. We eat that cost, so definitely use our platform. So we're going to look at Orlando. I'm going to zoom out and keep in mind this Bay Lake area down here in the bottom left. That's where the theme parks, like, they're really centralized around. But I like to do a little prospecting when I'm evaluating a market area. I usually like to hover and look at rates of return for listings in kind of the north section, west section, east, and south, and see if anything stands out to me. I'm going to assume, for the sake of this, that maybe this is an investment opportunity for people that are looking here. So I'm gonna say like a $500,000 max range, and then I don't want anything under $200,000. We might just be getting like some super swampy house, like, or delinquent homes, or something that needs way too much work. And I'm going to put beds and bath at least 2 to filter out kind of studios, or if the MLS that we're getting these listings from, they haven't put in beds and baths. And then we have this other toggle. I only want to see active listings, so nothing that's in contract or pending or in escrow. So when we do that, we're going to get a more cleaned up picture from an investment perspective. So if you are using Nestment on your own, make sure to use these filters. So let's take a peek at some of these places in the Northwest. A 4-bed, 2-bath. I'm going to click it. It looks interesting. For our Nestment or our Nestimate projections, these are things. We have these kind of top 3 evaluation metrics. We look at appreciation, what this listing in this area is expected or projected to appreciate every year over the next 5 years. Rental cash flow, so how much cash you can make less your expenses when it comes to a short-term rental or long-term rental. And then rate of return is kind of a combination of appreciation plus cash flow. So it's the equity you build plus the cash. So you can think of rate of return, and how we calculate it is, for every dollar you put in, this is your return that you can expect for every dollar that you put into this property. And then, as I mentioned, we have a short-term toggle here. So if you're planning to do, you want to rent this out for under 30 days, short-term rental, we pull in all of this information from our databases. And then long-term rental, you can toggle to long-term rental. So if you want to rent it out for a month at a time, or you want to get a traditional year-long renter in there, you can toggle to long-term rental. And we calculate and estimate the average monthly rental rate you can do for this listing. If you already knew all of that and have poked around on Nestimate, I apologize for repeating, but I think it's worth looking at. So for $460,000 investment, you get 1,800 square feet, 4 beds, 2 baths. Again, Orlando, this is in Orlando, so short-term rental is going to be pretty strict. This is going to need to be owner occupied, and it looks like it might be in a community or a development, so it might have stricter HOA regulations around STRs. So I'm going to look at long-term rental viability, and I generally like to come down here and compare my monthly payment to how much rental revenue I can make off this place. So if you combine mortgage expenses and property taxes, I'm going to be out $400 when you compare my revenue and my out-of-pocket expenses every month, which isn't bad. You're appreciating 4.5%. But let's poke around and see more now that we kind of have a bearing on what those metrics mean. For reference, this was about a 12% rate of return year over year. This place for 380 is saying that the rate of return is around 22%. And looks like the reason for this obviously is your monthly mortgage payment is going to be a lot less for a $380,000 home. But I want to look at the long-term rental. It says that you can rent this out for about $2,800 a month, which is pretty killer. I'm going to drop the partners in the group to 1 just so we can see the more holistic view. And then if this is an investment property, we do have some lenders that will do 10% down, and you can get an idea of your all-in upfront costs. So if you were buying this on your own, your down payment and closing costs at 10% down are about $50,000. If you have 2 people in your group, 24,000, 3 people in your group, you get the idea. So this is actually a pretty cool little spot. Again, long-term rental viability here. So I'm going to go ahead and save it to Orlando listings. But it looks like in general, this northwest quadrant, let's do one more and see if the appreciation is around 4.7%. So not, I mean, it's appreciation that's really solid. That's not going to, it's not going to blow you away like some other markets. But it's solid. It's positive, which is always a good sign. So you're going to build equity over the next 5 years at least. And you're going to make up a lot of your mortgage payment with monthly rental revenue if you do want to rent it out as a long-term rental. So if you're looking for a long-term rental, solid 4.5% appreciation, this northwest quadrant up here might be a good place for you to look. We're just going to poke around and see what the rates of return are in this northeast quadrant. Similar to the northwest quadrant, some of the photos aren't available, which makes me concerned about the quality of the home. This is a pretty cool looking house. I mean, it's really small. It's only 1,000 square feet for $420,000. While it might look cool, yeah, 1,000 square feet is not a lot, especially for 3 bedrooms. So they did a really good job with photos and staging. It looks like it's, rent ready without inspecting it. Could have some cool like curb appeal if you're putting it on Airbnb or trying to rent it out a month at a time. But again, at $420,000, your mortgage payment is going to be significantly higher than this one for 380 over here. Doesn't look as nice and as pretty, but some paint and some dressing can help that. I'm also curious about around Orlando Airport. So this place, 9% rate of return. Let's take a look at this spot. 14%, 6%, 12%. And some of these aren't even single family homes. They're like condos. But here's a single family home. I think the 5 bedrooms really helps out. You can see that the appreciation is expected to be 6% in this area on a 5 bedroom home. For $500,000, you get 2,700 square feet. That's pretty significant. And if you want to long-term rental it, your revenue is going to come close to covering, your monthly expenses. So keep that in mind too. More bedrooms might be a higher appreciation in Orlando, and 2,700 square feet for $500K is pretty killer. This is a place I did not see when I was prepping for this call this week, so I'm going to go ahead and save it. Real quick before we go to that theme park area, I am just going to see if we have any questions in the chat, and it looks like we don't. Okay, so let's get more interesting into the more interesting area. Come on, load for me. There's a lot of listings. This Bay Lake area, sorry, not trying to make anybody dizzy here. So this Bay Lake area, this is where all the theme parks are. And this area down here is Kissimmee. And again, this is more lenient from what I saw on short-term rental regulations. That it doesn't have to be owner occupied, and you can rent out the entire place, which is huge compared to Orlando. And it's pretty close to this theme park area. So it's going to be smaller, but I kind of want to check out and see if looks like there's any good investment opportunities down here. You guys can already see the home prices are significantly lower than Orlando. That's because most of them look like, with the exception of this one, most of them are like condos or townhomes, um, which, could be a great investment. I'm kind of looking for those single family homes. Those might be more appealing for somebody to Airbnb, right? They have their own yard. They don't have to worry as much about noise coming and going. They have a garage. So yeah, when we take a look at this place, I mean, you can see in Kissimmee, 8.7% expected appreciation per year is almost double some of the places we looked at in Orlando. And short-term rental is viability. Looks like you can charge on average $164 per night, and almost 60% of the nights are going to be filled. They're going to be occupied, which is pretty killer. It's 1,500 square feet, $400,000. I mean, to me, what's most attractive is this 8.7% appreciation. And you can see that if you have a group of 2 people, over 5 years, you're each going to build $154,000 in equity. When you consider that, your out of pocket is cash that you're putting in to cover mortgage and expenses is only going to be $400 a month. I mean, that's a pretty sweet place, just from a numbers perspective. So I'm going to go ahead and save that one. We'll see if we can find any other single family homes in this Kissimmee area. You also have to remember too that I haven't overlaid the Kissimmee STR map on top of our map, but it seems like this northwest quadrant, from what I remember, is all in green, which means it's okay. So maybe some of these places out here on the outskirts are not okay. You'll just have to double check. Yeah, all these places are attached. This place looks detached. And looks pretty awesome. I don't know if this is a planned home and these are just, okay, you can see that that's a computer generated graphic, but that looks like a pretty real graphic. So this could be new construction. But regardless, for $490,000, you get almost 2,900 square feet, which is awesome. You get 5 beds, 3 baths. Yeah, a ton of bedrooms that you can rent out means more beds on your Airbnb, means more people that it can host. And again, that 8.7% expected appreciation is pretty awesome. So if you're dead set on really wanting an STR, I would do the hunting in this Kissimmee area. If you have over $500,000, your mortgage payment's going to be higher, so it's going to be harder to cover as an STR. But I want to see if that opens up some more. Yeah, this opens up some more true single family homes like this guy. So for a little over 500K, you get 2,000 square feet. I mean, this place looks awesome to Airbnb. It's expected to be occupied 58% of the days out of the year, and on average about $165 per night. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a little low. You can always scroll down and just get a snapshot of similar homes in the area. There's no 5 bedrooms on here, and these are the current prices, not the average over the year. So maybe we'll leave it at 164. Yeah, in terms of the equity that you and a partner would be building, almost 200K in 5 years. You're going to be out about $700 in cash every month, but I mean, that 5-year equity built is pretty attractive. I mean, this home, just looking at photos, looks like you could rent it straight away, no downtime. So I'm going to go ahead and save that one as well. Yeah. So if you also want a single family home, you're going to want to bump your filter up to about 600K and expose more of these homes that are truly detached single family. If you are curious, like Mark, why aren't you zooming in on homes in Bay Lake where all the theme parks are? You have to keep in mind that there's not a lot of residential area here. You can see, like on the map, these are all parks, theme parks, theme parks, theme parks, theme parks. It's most likely zoned for commercial use, not residential. But you do get some pockets down here in the left that do fall under Kissimmee, which could be very attractive. If these were Orlando, not so attractive as an STR. Let's take a look at this place. I'm wondering why it's only expected to have a 3.1% rate of return. I mean, this is a pretty expensive home, and you're not going to be covering a ton of your monthly payment renting it out as an Airbnb, and the appreciation is expected to be a lot less, which is interesting. Let's see if these places closer to the parks are actually expected to appreciate less than some of those other homes further away in Kissimmee. Yeah, this place is only expected to appreciate 3.6%. And for 560 grand, you're only getting 1,300 square feet. It's only 2 beds. So it's going to be really hard for these homes that are only 2 beds to appreciate as much as those other Kissimmee homes that are like 5 beds, 4 beds that are further away from the theme parks. So that's something good to know and keep in the back of your head. At the end of the day, cash flow is nice, but appreciation is really where the money's at in terms of making, generating wealth for yourself. None of these places are really standing out to me. With that in mind, I would honestly keep my eye on this area in Kissimmee down here, and just check with the Kissimmee short-term rental map that those are viable. And then this area is really interesting and requires some more investigation. But it's on the outskirts of Bay Lake and the theme park area. It's west of this 429, and it's outside of Orlando. So it's a big question mark. There are some cool single family homes here. They're in proximity to the theme parks. They're a little bit cheaper. They're true single family homes. The rate of returns aren't as impressive. But it is a super interesting area that I kind of want to keep my eye on. The appreciation not as impressive as that one area in Kissimmee. But they do have some cool single family homes over here. If you're looking for like a vacation home that you want to go to and use with your family, you're going to get more bang for your buck in this kind of like western area west of the theme parks if you truly just want to go with your family. I would look for value investments for true vacation homes over here. A lot of these places are awesome. 4 beds, 3 baths, 1,800 square feet, super close to all the theme parks. Middle of the road appreciation, still positive. And if you did want to short-term rental it, I think that is an option because it's outside of Orlando proper. So if you want a vacation home that you're going to use a lot, and then you want to supplement some of the income by renting it out on Airbnb, I think this might be one of your spots, is this western section. Let me go in the chat. Just curious, for those of you with me, do you plan on this potentially being a true investment property or a true vacation home or somewhere in between? If you want to chat or throw that in the chat, that'd be awesome. Yeah, again, in terms of numbers, this Western area, like solid bang for your buck for vacation home, probably cover a lot of your mortgage and expenses by renting it out when you're not using it. I just realized Orlando is crazy big, and there's a lot of nuance to it as a market. Whether it's short-term rental, it's going to change your strategy of where you look. If it's long-term rental, that's going to change your strategy. And then if this is truly a vacation home, you can see that that's going to change your strategy as well. I try to keep these to 30 minutes. This one, I'm just on the dot. I'll just see if anybody has any questions before I sign off for another market analysis. If you guys do want me to cover a different market, if you have suggestions and you're like, hey, Mark, do Tampa next week, or hey, Mark, do Atlanta. You can email me, mark@nestman.com, and I'll make sure that we get those to you or plan those in our next sessions. Jovita, I'm interested in an investment property to rent first and to live on later. That's awesome. Depending if you want to short-term rental it as an Airbnb, I would look in that Kissimmee area if you want to short-term rental it. If you want to long-term rental it, all of Orlando and Kissimmee is kind of wide open to you. So at that point, if you want to live in it later, I would really prioritize, what's in your budget, what's not going to require a ton of work. You don't want to sink a ton of money into it. Initially, you can maybe pull some equity out later, and use that to upgrade your home when you want to live in it. But yeah, if it's a long-term rental, you don't care. You want to rent it out a month at a time or get a traditional renter in there for a year. That opens up all of Orlando to you. If it's STR, again, that Kissimmee area is probably going to be your best bet. Definitely go onto Nestman and poke around and play with some of the numbers. Toggle between STR and LTR in the Nestimate. But yeah, excited to see if you, Jovita, if you would like to, or if you have any other questions I can answer, just email me, mark@nestman.com. I don't know if you're already working with one of our relationship managers, like with your group, but those are free to use. I can always get you in touch with Emily or Matt or Niles on our team. But yeah, I can either do a screen share with you and dive deeper, or connect you with one of them. Well, thank you guys so much. I am logging off, keeping these to 30 minutes. This one's 34. Sounds good, Jovita. Really appreciate it. And hopefully I'm saying your name right. But have a lovely rest of your week, lovely weekend. And until next time, I will see everybody and figure out, after 6 of these, I still don't know where to end. There it is. All right. I'll talk to you all later.